To start us off, hi everyone, I'm Gabriela Posada. I'm a senior sales executive for Instacart Health, and I actually used to be a pillar lead for Sazon, which is our Latinx employee resource group, which sometimes we'll use ERG interchangeably for those that are like, what is an ERG? I was part of the culture pillar and then moved over to community. And I'm really just so excited, as I mentioned, to be here moderating today's session with my colleague, but also very, very good dear friend of mine, Rebecca Valdivieso. So, Reb, I'll pass it off to you to do your intro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Valdivieso. Thank you, Gabby. Also, I work with her at Instacart. I'm a training facilitator within our customer experience organization. I'm also currently the co-lead for our Sazon ERG. As Gab mentioned, that is our Latinx ERG that we have here at Instacart. And I'm so happy to be here with you in the Techqueria organization today during Tech Week.
Awesome. Well, again, also on behalf of Rebecca, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. I know, first of all, it's a jam-packed event, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to choose to listen to us. And honestly, we hope you enjoy it and really get some good tidbits out of it. Also, before I get carried away with this fireside chat, I do want to make sure we connect with one another. I think one of the main goals, right, is finding that networking and really getting to engage with others, during the session and beyond. So if you don't mind, I would love for you guys to drop in the chat, where you're tuning in from, where you're from, share your LinkedIn, anything that you feel is exciting to share with others. So Rob just sent it in. I just sent it in. Jonathan, thank you so much. Really excited that you're here with us as well. So yeah, all right. So let's go ahead and kind of dive in, because I know these 30 minutes are going to go so fast, especially because you and I can talk for hours. So as we talk about employee resource groups, we often refer to them as ERGs, as I mentioned before, but there really are employee-led organizations and groups that really foster this inclusion by bringing people together with shared backgrounds. So as I mentioned, Instacart has one that is called Sazon. But beyond creating communities, ERGs also play a really important, vital role in shaping the culture, really driving some innovation, which I know, Reb, you're going to talk about, and really supporting this diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts within the organization. So with that in mind, Rebecca, can you share kind of what inspired you to get involved in leading ERGs to begin with? And from your experience, what has been one of those most rewarding parts of leading these ERGs?
Yes, I love this question to get started. So actually, I'm even going to let folks that are tuned in right now, if you are currently a part of either a member of an ERG or a leader, drop in the chat also what is the most rewarding part for yourself. But for me, I was inspired to lead our ERG here and a couple other ERGs that I've been a part of, because I saw the potential that they have to create change, both in terms of fostering that community that you spoke about, Gabby, and influencing corporate culture as well. So as mentioned, I'm the co-lead for Sazon, which is our Latinx ERG, and I'm a pillar lead for also our advocates at Instacart ERG. And over the years, I've watched how these incredibly powerful ERGs have evolved from being, social groups, if you will, out in the workplace. And especially for us, we're primarily remote. So being able to still feel that connection amongst our employees, but also those who have that shared background is incredibly important. But ERGs are also strategic partners within the organization. So to someone's point that I saw in the chat, now they're critical in shaping the DEI and B, if you will, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives. I also think that they're important for product development and enhancement, and of course, talent retention strategies. So what started as a way to connect employees with similar backgrounds together has now become a platform for that innovation and that organizational impact to a larger scale. And in addition to directly influencing culture and fostering that sense of belonging, it's fulfilling to serve as an ERG leader as it pertains to building up our communities. I'll also add that it shaped me personally. I feel like as a leader for Sazon, for example, I've had the opportunity to lead a team of phenomenal pillar leaders, and some that are even more senior to my role in their day-to-day roles at the company. But that experience alone has taught me a lot about leadership, delegation, and trust. And then through monthly meetings with our executive sponsor, I've learned how to translate our community needs into organizational priorities as well. Gabby, I don't know if you want to add a little bit to that, but feel free.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think one of the things that I've loved when I was, a lead as well is really the community belonging. I know that sometimes it's great to find people that have similar interests. And Rebecca, now that's how you and I kind of met. We were completely different sections of our company, but it really has brought us so much together, and it's kind of nice to have that common ground. But one of the things too that really sparks my interest in something that you mentioned is really how, it can shape a product, right? And as we think about Instacart, right, and the fact that we have this ability to, we're a household staple for now, right? We're a verb, right? Let's Instacart it. So can you explain a little bit about how, Sazón and ERGs in general can kind of help bridge that gap between the overarching DEI initiatives that they may have, but then how do we tie them to overall organization goals? And really if you have any examples to share, how could this synergy look like in actual practice?
Yes, absolutely. I like to say and think about ERGs as really being the heartbeat of those DEIB efforts, where diversity, equity, and belonging meets the real world needs of employees. ERGs serve as a direct line to the experience of diverse communities within a company. And then ERGs bring that lived experience and the nuanced perspectives to the table, which helps the company think about diversity in that broader sense, especially for those that are serving, their end users, their customers, whoever it is that they want that community to look like from a company point of view. So for example, Sazón helped push the development of a Spanish language app experiment. It started as an experiment, making our platform again more accessible to Spanish speaking consumers, hopefully one day also to our Spanish speaking shoppers. But that's a major win for product inclusivity and accessibility, and being able to expand that market reach as well. And then additionally, I'll speak on behalf of the Advocates ERG, because that ERG is advocating for so many different communities as well, but through programming for Earth Day, and doing events for that, as well as International Day of the World's Indigenous People. All of these serve, a greater purpose of not just acknowledging the causes themselves, but being able to connect folks and our ERGs and our members to the overall company organizational priorities. I think ERGs help us live out that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging values in actionable ways. And then when ERGs bring those lived experiences of their members, especially leaders as well, and align them with the business goals, you create that synergy that benefits both the company and the employees.
Yeah, I think one thing too is you think about kind of that influence you're talking about. I think, and you kind of mentioned it in your first part, right? You do have a lot of exposure to these executive sponsors, and I think they play kind of an important role in champion. Mm-hmm. But sometimes they're also doing this as their side piece, and their side project, and something they're passionate about. But so I feel like one thing that at least I feel like I struggled with when I was in that leadership a couple of years ago was how do we really effectively maximize that impact of the ERG, right? And how do we really keep our executive sponsors engaged to drive a meaningful impact? So curious from your perspective, can you share what has been effective for you and kind of how you've navigated that relationship with executive sponsors?
Yes. And again, I'm kind of going to throw this question also in the chat for any DEI specialists or leaders that are in the group. What has been, I think we may have accidentally lost Gabby for a second. But she has the link to rejoin. But what have y'all found, with working closely with the executive sponsors or anyone that's able to really amplify the messaging and the work that the ERG is doing? How has that strategic partnership with those leaders at that level helped impact the ERGs? So for me, what I will go ahead and mention is that one strategy that's been particularly effective. Yay! Hey, you're back.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I just turned off, and I was like, wait, I want to hear the answer to this.
No, it's okay. I was kind of just being like, hey, y'all, drop it in the chat also. But one strategy that I feel like has been particularly effective to align, again, and I mentioned it already, but it's really, really important that we align the ERG's mission with the company's overall missions and goals, right? So when we talk with our executive sponsors, and for me, in particular, I meet with as far as a Sasson co-lead, I meet with our executive sponsor, who is the VP of Policy and Government Affairs. We meet monthly, so pretty regularly. And I've also partnered with our executive sponsor from our Advocates ERG. And for that one, I'm a pillar lead, so not quite like the co-lead, but I still partner very closely with that executive sponsor because it's really important as it pertains to that community support. And again, making sure that our work that we're doing as ERG leaders aligns with social impact, how it aligns and is very relatively important for us at Instacart, it's the customer, the shopper, our retail experience, all of that, even our policy initiatives. We have a great policy team that is doing incredible work for the Latinx and Hispanic community. We're involved every year in so many big initiatives, especially out in DC, and just recently the Hispanic Caucus. And that is so amazing because it shows that our executive leaders also believe in the work that we're doing, but they see with that connection and how important that work aligns with the overall company goals. I also believe in transparency and regular communication, super duper important, and which is why I wanted to make sure we have those monthly meeting check-ins with our sponsors to ensure that we are aligned, or if there are any blockers, how it is that they can help us get past those challenges as well. Which I'm very grateful that our leaders here are really passionate about that as well. Another important strategy that I will add is storytelling, sharing real world examples of how our ERG has influenced that change, whether that's through product inclusion or development, cultural awareness initiatives. All of that helps others in the organization understand the values that ERGs bring. And then as ERG leaders, we have the spark in us to continue to be those change makers. And while it may be a volunteer role, yes, it is employee led, it is still incredibly crucial in so many different functions as it pertains to our own development and career aspirations as well. And you know what? Actually, I'll add one more. I think celebrating wins together is also really, really important. I think, whenever there's a successful event or a new product feature that was influenced by the ERG, acknowledging those milestones, again, reinforces the value of the partnership and the impact that we all made together. So we absolutely need the leaders at that executive level to be championing for our communities in the rooms where they make decisions more broadly. Okay.
I love all of the answers. I'm like, yes. But one thing I like that you brought up too, it is championing those wins. And I think, at least from my experience, working together, especially as it, relates to, Sasson events and initiatives, one of the things that I think we've really tried to do is innovation. But sometimes it comes, and innovation comes from all these diverse perspectives and how we think about it. And thankfully, we do work at an organization that, advocates for us to have these diverse perspectives. But one thing, if you're okay with it, that sparked my interest was I would love for you to talk about kind of, for background at Instacart, we had basically a hackathon, which is any employee can share any idea, big or small, that they have at the organization. And then they're able to basically create a little co-team, find some people that they want to work with, and come with this, magical idea. And I think a lot of what you've tied, Rebecca, has really spoke to me about that. And I think one of the reasons I'm bringing this up now is it comes back top to mind is because I really think it had that executive sponsorship. It had that, that energizing aspect. It's how to include innovation and include that diverse perspective. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about what sparked you to be interested in, that proxy inclusion, hackathon, and what was the project and how you kind of came to be?
Yes, would love to dive into this, especially because we got to do that together. But so we had the machine learning hackathon last year in 2023, and that was a real moment of innovation because there was a specific product inclusion category that was driven by diversity. So Gabby, my Sasson colleague here, and I formed a team, and our project focused on using machine learning to translate nutritional facts and product details into Spanish for the Instacart consumer app. So while this wasn't just about language in itself, it was about the accessibility and the inclusion of a whole market segment, right? The goal was to make our products more accessible for Spanish-speaking users. And what started as general feedback, if you will, in regards to, we're a part of another committee, but we wanted to originally, the actual goal was to focus on how it is that we can make that a part of the roadmap for product development. And then we wanted to take it a step further by submitting that hackathon project. The key takeaways here is essentially that ERGs can be a catalyst for that innovation when we, as ERG leaders and members, can drive innovation by spotlighting unmet needs with diverse customer segments and then directly contribute to business outcomes. Gabby, so I don't know if you realize it, but you were the one that actually inspired me to participate last year. I didn't realize like how easy it really was to be a part of the machine learning hackathon. I was like, okay, I don't know anything about that. That's not my profession here. But if it's okay, I'd love to put you on the spot. Can you share from your point of view, with that hackathon in particular, but you've also previously been involved, I think your team won one year, right?
Yeah. We won People's Choice, which basically meant I was like, hey, everyone likes this idea, right? And I think that comes to what you were saying earlier, like how do we, internally sell it and advocate for each other? But yeah, I think one of the things that it always sticks out to me is, kind of to Natalie's point is the best way to get like some of ideas is those type, have the opportunity. So one of those people, I'm like, hey, if someone's giving me this opportunity, I kind of want to take it and kind of run with it. Like, right. It doesn't always present itself. So when I'm like, hey, if it's here, I am going to give it my best. And I think it's something that we all have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because Rebecca mentioned, I was like, we know nothing about machine learning. I am in sales. I am not a technical person by trade. So really getting comfortable, and I think it's crucial for all members, regardless of your role or if you're part of a G, to feel really empowered to contribute and participate in these opportunities to really drive that meaningful change that really will benefit, the rest to come. So, just because I'm looking at the time and I know we have some Q&A, but I do kind of want to ask like a couple more questions, if you don't mind, Rebecca, in terms of like, as we also think about, I feel like the hackathon was one of those moments we became even closer, right? As we try to dream big and, navigate internally our stakeholders. But can you also share maybe what other specific ways that you use ERGs to kind of foster that genuine connection within the company? Whether was it through other programming or other events like this, and how has those connections really impacted maybe both your professional but also your personal life?
Yes, absolutely. And I know we've already mentioned this numerous times now, but Gabby, you are also one of those connections that I made through Saison. And I can genuinely say that you have impacted me in more ways than one, right? So listen, ERGs offer a safe space where people can connect on a deeper and more personal level, whether it's through events like we have carrot chats, we have and in what our carrot chats are essentially is where employees of these different ERG organizations can share what that employee experience is like with potential candidates as they're in the interview process. But not just through that, also casual meetups at our community events. These gatherings can create those genuine relationships. And I can say that some of my closest friends are people that I did meet through ERG activities, or whether it was through just being a member or being a leader like you, Gabby. I can name at least 10 other people that I have met through that ERG involvement internally. And I believe that those connections have, those are made for life. True. Right. I do think that you carry that with you and you learn from one another in more ways than one as well. And additionally, there are professional connections that have also helped me expand my network and gain insights that I wouldn't have otherwise had access to, such as introducing me to Techqueria or other external organizations that I'm now a part of. It's gratifying to hear from colleagues who do feel seen and heard because of ERG programming. And I think that these type of events right here, right now, while we're all sharing each other's LinkedIn information, we're now going to see what we're all sharing in our professional feeds there. But all of that, you'll start to see what other people are a part of, and you're going to start to follow those thought leaders that I think will start to shape you in ways that you don't even realize it. And it's all organic too. I do believe that that's the magic of that building community.
No, and I like that. And I feel like that one's an easy or an easier, I will say, win, right? When you start to see those relationships forming and you start to see the impact that you're doing. But some other things are not as tangible to see the results of. So how do you how do you measure some of that success of the ERGs within like the organization? And like, are there any specific metrics that you've seen work really well to track some of those outcomes for those like listening that would be like, oh, that's a good way for us to also measure?
Yes. And also a question I'm going to be like, y'all drop it in the chat. Like, how do you also measure the success of your ERGs within the organization? So for us, we track both qualitative and quantitative metrics. For example, engagement levels, our events and participations in programmings are more important indicators of success, but we also look at the outcomes. Has our work led to changes in company policy or product development, employee satisfaction, tenure, promotions, all of that retention piece as well. And then another metric that we follow is that leadership development. ERGs are often a stepping stone for employees to grow their leadership skills, and seeing members move into higher level roles or take on more responsibility is also a key indicator of success for us. And then I know that we're all used to getting so many different feedback links for surveys, but those are also really important. I feel like it's important for folks to also let us know, like, would like to see more programming like this particular event, or this is what I took away from it. Would love to dive further on certain topics like that. So keeping all of that in mind as we look ahead to each new year and how it is that we want to break up our quarterly programming as well.
Great. And I know we have 5 minutes. I do have more questions on myself that I want to ask, but if you are curious, please go into the chat, ask a question. We would love to get Rebecca's and I's perspective on anything. Please submit it. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep picking Rebecca's brain. But another thought that I had too was, we're talking about, leadership is the stepping stone for at least a lot of these promotions and things like that. Or, it's a way to grow in different skill sets, right? Whether it's more project management or things like that. But I also think it really just is a way to think differently than outside of what you maybe think about on a day-to-day basis. So can you really share for me maybe some ways that ERGs can foster that inclusivity or that inclusive environment that really promotes that creativity and collaboration? And then like, how do you ensure, as new people come into the roles or people get onboarded, that these spaces continue to stay like innovative?
Yes. And as mentioned earlier, these ERGs foster inclusion by creating safe spaces for employees to share their ideas, their experiences, maybe their backgrounds, where they came from, and perspectives. And this is incredibly important because when we as employees feel seen and heard, then we're more likely to contribute creatively because we think that it's a safe space to share our ideas and our ways of thinking. To keep ERGs innovative, I definitely encourage cross-functional collaboration. For example, we involve members from different departments, that people sit from different corners of the company, right? And we bring diverse skills and perspectives into the group, leading to a more creative problem-solving point of view whenever we are trying to, either we're working with a very tight budget. For example, Heritage Month this year, we had very, very limited resources, but we had to think creatively with how it was that we were going to make any of these dollars stretch. How is it that I can involve my workplace team in different office locations to maybe have an on-site happy hour that celebrates the month, right? So things like that. Involving all of those different teams is able to think creatively with, some challenges that may naturally come up for any of us, but keeping a feedback loop open with members to ensure that we're constantly evolving based on the needs and the ideas that we gather from those employee engagement surveys. Like I mentioned, perfect example was this year's Heritage Month. Super tight budget. We had to get creative with how we are going to deliver a highly anticipated slate of events, utilizing as many internal resources as we could. We had a directors panel that essentially put a spotlight on the highest level of Latinx members at the company. They shared their career path journeys, and it was an amazing event to kick off Heritage Month. And then to round out our programming for Heritage Month, we invited a nonprofit that our policy and government affairs team had sponsored a couple years in a row. And we wanted to share with our community the work that this nonprofit is doing for the Latin community that they serve and how Instacart was a resource for them. So again, those were different ways that we were able to use different points of views from different parts of the company in order to still deliver high quality results, but no one has to know that we did this with X amount of budget, right? And how we built that out. But that's one example right there.
Gosh, and I will say, and hopefully it's not too big of a stereotype, but I really love how Latin communities, we are creative, we get the job done, we really, love that mentality of like, it's okay, this is the budget we have, we're going to run with it, and we're going to think of some other creative way that we can, resourceful, yes, absolutely. So keeping in mind that we have 2 minutes, Rabbi, I'd love to put you on the spot, and for those that are, teeter-tottering and also joining ERGs, like what words of wisdom do you have for them, and and to kind of push them of like, yes, come join an ERG at your company.
Yes, absolutely. My biggest piece of advice is to always link your ERG initiatives to the broader company goals. We mentioned that earlier, whether it's through that product inclusion, social impact, or talent development, making it clear how that work of the ERG contributes to the overall company's success, but also being strategic and tracking the outcomes and also how you contributed to that as well. Being able to associate all of that into your own performance review or personal brag dog for wins, any of that. I think it's really important that you highlight all the different pieces of program management, of budgeting and negotiation, and being able to network with different teams and partner, collaborate strategically and collaborate with different teams. And all these different ways that you are contributing to something that is beyond, outside of your day-to-day scope, but tracking the impact that you're still making, and also that work that you're partnering with those executive sponsors and stakeholders, building that personal board of advisors, if you will. I think all of that helps you develop personally and professionally as well. And then the combination of all of that will help reflect on your own experiences and insights while reinforcing the importance of ERGs in fostering that innovation and inclusion in the workplace.
No, that's awesome. And I know we're out of time. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for these resourceful insights as we wrap our discussion. I really hope that everyone's gained valuable insights into how ERGs can drive both inclusion and innovation within your organizations. And, they're more just in communities. They're powerful agents that can change the way we align with DE goals and really shape our collaboration. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. Please do connect with us. We're really excited to have at this space, and we hope to continue to foster more relationships to come.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your tech week. Thank you, Gabby.
Bye, everyone.